I was leaking pain, ugly, jagged gray torrents of it. A nurse, her face painted a similar shade of misery, sat on my bed. She took in a big, mangled breath. She showed me a picture on her phone of a cat, gray and placid, and a dog, almond brown and curious. There was a bead as she held it up to me. These were my pets. They died when my house burned down. That did, in a way, end the weeping. It replaced it with a manic, absurd laughter that sounded like I was pulling stitches with my teeth. I was in that bed because I had tried to end my own life. I tried to cut my own wrists and overdose on muscle relaxants because if it's worth doing. In the end, they only had one goal, to keep me alive. That was contrary to my goals. Oh, you're dehydrated. Here's another IV. You can't sleep? Here's an endless stream of Xanax. You might be cramping? Here's some potassium to flush anything out. We're worried about poisoning. Do you need anything? No, sir, we cannot throw you out the window. No, we cannot peg you in the head with a phone. No, sir, please don't bite out your stitches. Do you want more Xanax? I'm going to get you some more Xanax. When you're 5150'd, defined as involuntary psychiatric commitment of individuals who present a danger to themselves or others due to signs of mental illness, a lot of very complicated things happen very quickly. There's this guy who makes you sign a paper. He looked like the sort of guy you don't like punch in the teeth outside a vape store. He takes a picture of you, bleary-eyed, hazy, for the records, of course, close-up of your wounds, of any lingering signs of self-injury, no matter how faded they are. There it is. He clicks satisfied. I really hope he worked for the hospital. In my worst moment, my mind lingers. He's in some basement on some ratty old recliner, staring holes into my picture. There it is. He says post-coitally while licking his two front teeth. Then they make you sign a paper saying that you can't buy a gun in California for at least 2 years, which, surprise, doesn't work. The paper could have been the confession to a crime or the deed to a small country, and I wouldn't have batted an eye. So far, I was just dissatisfied with the bottle service in heaven. Plastic casters chewing up hallways, a dripping wound of doctors and nurses always moving, always going. Here was a traffic accident, a pregnancy gone sour, a man who hears voices trying to pull them out with a corkscrew. It was a terrible place to sleep. The idle chatter of two nurses talking about how a pack of dogs had turned a newborn baby to pieces. I was thinking that if I hung myself with a phone cord, would I bounce up and down? Would I end up breaking my neck against the ceiling? Would I accidentally call someone? Imagine that, some grandmother picking up her phone to hear my eyes popping. I also thought that if I was fast enough, I could break the glass in the bathroom mirror. When I was lucid enough to talk, they sent in a psychologist. A thin guy, too thin, it's like his bones were hollow. He looked like he was perpetually tripping through life, like the sound guy on a porn set. So let's go over what you did, he said, looking at my chart. You took some pills. I was certain they were going to poison me, to keep me there forever, chained in the bed to do just enough to keep me alive, forever. Soma in perpetuity, to be cell exclusive. That's nothing, man, that's a vacation. I wanted this to be over. If I could just say the right thing, then I could go home, into my own bed, safe, warm, quiet. That's why anyone does drugs in the first place, turn all that cold, hard concrete into a soft womb they can crawl into. This was the biggest mistake I could have made. Officially, he would write in my file, took some pills to be committed so he could, quote, have a vacation. The person who I needed to help me the most in that moment decided to write me off completely, thus no one actually took me seriously. Quality care. When I was finally allowed to go on the balcony with a pet cemetery nurse, she had some observations about the planter. There used to be a bird in that plant, the nurse idly pointed to the plant seated next to the balcony, with a little family and everything. But then the gardener didn't know, and he watered the plant and he drowned the child. The mother never came back. Then there were visits, family, eyes pressed like soft purple clay, choosing their words with magnifying glasses and a tweezer. My mother asked, "They're doing all this new research on Wi-Fi, how it could have adverse effects on mood. Could that be making you sick?" I looked away, catching my reflection in the window, overlaid and warped like damaged film. Yeah, maybe. To say I wept would be a disservice to the very concept. I was gutted like a fish, jawline to belly, and 2 fingers popped bone, viscera, and organs. I was unraveled. This was the sound of being fractured, pointless, endless, violent, to the point your eyes burn and something clicks in your chest and it ticks away with every ragged breath. So I spent a week in the hospital while everyone I loved was trying to throw water on the fire. Plans got canceled, favors got called, a couple of years of life got shaved just off the top. My cuts were shallow, but just deep enough to need care. Little red mouths full of little liquid yellow teeth telling me to cut deeper, spilling out rust brown as they spoke. I wanted to talk back to try and reach some mutual conclusion with my irrational wound. I had twisted a knife into my mother's stomach, and what came out wasn't blood, but love, thick and pink like house paint, coating my arms, my throat. I didn't want any of it. I didn't deserve any of it. But there it was, and there it always would be. I had dropped out of college because I was fucking lonely. I went to community college, and the thing that nobody tells you is that's the place where people have their shit together. There's no hesitation. People jump from class to class while working jobs just to survive living in San Diego. Teenage mothers push down strollers with backpacks full of secondhand textbooks, never stopping to talk because being uncertain was a luxury they no longer had. I had it in spades. I had my uncertainty wrapped in silk and served with truffles. A velvet scalpel I used to cut off the soles of my feet, so why not? I had time. When I told my mother I failed, she said, "The world is your oyster." Yeah, all that's missing is the skin connecting the pearl to the oyster. I knew I was wasting my life away, so I did what anyone does when they have a terminal case of self-awareness. I started drinking. Why not? A little more. I was so angry. I could feel it rust all over myself. But I could see through the little lattices of chewed up metal. I could see the person I wanted to be. A decent artist, a good brother, a human being who deserves love. The drink just helped me be that person. But what no one tells you is that whiskey burns clean. So any of the spirits, really. At a certain point, you stop drinking booze and just start chugging straight gasoline. My pyre has thick, gnarled branches I chewed off the family tree. I tried living with my mother and stepfather for a while after my failed attempt at even the vaguest notion of adulthood. I hated living there, hating being so close to that college, to the place where I had failed so spectacularly. I could also feel myself intruding into their lives and felt voyeuristic in a way that was like overdosing on morphine. Like I was this thing that had to be addressed before the living could start. I got into a fight with my stepdad, and his response was a breakdown of the costs of the house, of where all the money was going, where all that time was going, how in the end I was a net loss. His last words of the argument were, "And what exactly is your contribution to this?" It haunts me. What exactly is your contribution? Well, almost 4 years later, I still don't fucking know. That's when I moved out. I had a life I was killing, draining. So my suicide would be a gift, wrapped in a bright red bow like a cherry red decoder ring in a box of Cracker Jacks. Only the prize was closure for me and only me. It was a gift no one particularly took to right away, and it was a bitch to return, let me tell you that. What exactly is my contribution to all this? Back in the hospital, the doctor, a squat little Jewish man, was probing my stomach with gloved hands. I was in pain vaguely everywhere and nowhere. I broke again. I didn't know how to carry all that hurt, so I gave it to him. I can't do this. I can't do any of this. He considered me for a moment. Just look at the view. This room has the best view. The room oversaw bright blue skies, rust-covered mountains, languid blood flow traffic. But it wasn't that to me. To me, it was time, spread out to the very edges, fluid, black as pitch, thick as concrete, spreading out, drowning the dirt, filling the birds' hollow bones, making the clouds weep. It was time I had in gallons, 60, maybe 62 unleaded gallons to swallow. Time that I didn't want. time I would be forced to let fill my mouth, swallow, occupy me. I was at the very edges, barely getting my feet wet. I had to wade through it, if not for me, then to avoid causing any more pain. This is what they wanted from me. I can't do this, I said again. He looked away. Just look at the view. I saw my own reflection, a fetid pig, people on the street living in dust, in the in-between, arms deep in trash cans like they're birthing a breaching foal. With cracked lips and a smile full of hardship, they tell me to be grateful. I never wanted this. I feel guilty for what I have, for what I keep getting, all the comfort that surrounds me, all the pleasure I mainline through swollen veins. Take all of it, break it down, break me down, take the parts wholesale. Sleep in my bed, tangle yourself in my sheets, take my art, sell it as your own, take every breath of laughter, every joke, take all the love people pour into me, but please take my time. Rip it out of me, gut me like a dying deer, find it thick, black, reaching every which way. Drink it to your spires of rotten teeth. Take all my potential, all my maybe. Please, I never wanted any of this. But I keep going, floating on that river of tar, throwing out my raft of bottles, and that vague sunset of reclamation of my own childhood, of some semblance of justice being replaced by that look my mother gave me in that bed. It stretches out, blocks out the sky. It's all I see when I look up now. Her skin stretched out, her guilt and worry and inking out the stars, trembling, mourning, one massive eye replacing the moon. Could that be making you sick?
Petyr Cirino, everybody!